Imagine a time when the powerful kingdom of Makuria thrived along the banks of the Nile River. This ancient realm, more famous than its southern neighbor Alodia, still holds many secrets in its past. Our primary insights into Makuria come from various Arab travelers and historians who journeyed through Nubia. However, these accounts often have a slant against their Christian neighbors, focusing mainly on military skirmishes between Egypt and Nubia. But there's a notable exception: Ibn Salim el-Aswani, an Egyptian diplomat who visited Dongola in the 10th century when Makuria was at its zenith. His detailed observations give us a rare glimpse into the kingdom's golden age. The Nubians were literate, and a significant amount of their writing has survived. These documents, written in Old Nubian using a unique script blending Greek and Coptic symbols, reveal much about their society. Yet, most of these texts are religious or legal, offering little to historians about everyday life. The most valuable collection was found at Qasr Abrim, containing some important governmental records. In the 1960s, the construction of the Aswan High Dam threatened to flood what was once northern Makuria. To preserve its history, UNESCO initiated a massive archaeological effort, drawing experts from all over the globe. Key Makurian sites like the city of Faras with its stunning cathedral, Qasr Abrim, and the town of Dabera West were excavated. These digs provided crucial insights into medieval Nubian life. The only major site explored within Makuria itself was the capital at Old Dongola. By the early 4th century, the mighty kingdom of Kush, with its capital at Meroe, was falling apart. The region that would become Makuria, stretching from the 3rd Nile Cataract to the Great Bend of the 4th and 5th Cataracts, likely broke away from Kush in the 3rd century. Here, a distinct culture known as pre-Makuria began to flourish. In the 4th and 5th centuries, Napata, near the 4th Cataract, emerged as a significant center. This area, once a key political and sacred site for Kush, now hosted a new elite buried in grand tumuli at places like El Zuma and Tankasi. This period saw a population boom and social changes that integrated the Kushites with the Nubians, originally from Kordofan. By the 5th century, a new Makurian society and state had formed. In the late 5th century, one of the early Makurian kings moved the kingdom's power base downstream to Dongola, establishing it as the new royal seat. Dongola quickly grew into a bustling urban center. Many more fortresses sprang up along the Nile, not for military defense but to encourage urban growth. When Dongola was founded, Makuria already had established contacts with the Byzantine Empire. In the 530s, Emperor Justinian embarked on a mission to expand his influence by converting neighboring regions, including Nubia, to Christianity. The Byzantine court, however, was split between two Christian sects: Justinian's Chalcedonians and his wife Theodora's Miaphysites, who were particularly influential in Egypt. John of Ephesus described how two competing missions were sent to Nubia. The Miaphysites arrived first and converted the northern kingdom of Nobatia in 543. Although the Nobatian king refused to let Justinian's mission proceed south, archaeological evidence suggests Makuria may have converted by the mid-6th century. Chronicler John of Bykler noted that by around 568, Makuria had received the faith of Christ. In 573, a Makurian delegation visited Constantinople, bringing gifts and affirming its good relations with the Byzantines. Unlike Nobatia and Alodia, Makuria embraced Chalcedonian Christianity, as evidenced by early church architecture in Dongola. In the 7th century, Makuria annexed Nobatia. While theories differ, it likely happened after the Sasanian occupation of Egypt, around the 620s but before 642. Nobatia had strong ties with Egypt and suffered greatly from its fall. Some churches show signs of destruction and rebuilding, suggesting possible Sasanian invasion. Weakened, Nobatia fell to Makuria, which then extended its territory north to Philae near the First Cataract. A new bishopric was founded in Faras around 600 AD, and new cathedrals were built in Faras and Qasr Abrim, modeled after Dongola's basilica. Nobatia remained a distinct entity within the unified kingdom, governed by an eparch. Between 639 and 641, Muslim Arabs overran Byzantine Egypt. Despite a Byzantine request for help, Nubia, preoccupied with Beja conflicts, could not assist. In 641 or 642, the Arabs launched their first expedition into Makuria, but it was repelled. A second invasion in 651, led by Abdallah ibn Sa'ad, pushed as far south as Dongola, which was besieged but held out thanks to the skilled Nubian archers. The siege ended with a treaty known as the Bacht, establishing an annual exchange of goods rather than a submission. This treaty, which lasted over 6 centuries despite occasional raids, recognized Makuria as an independent state. The 8th century saw Makuria consolidate its power. King Mercurios, praised by Coptic biographer John the Deacon as the new Constantine, reorganized the state and established Miaphysite Christianity as the official creed. He likely founded the large Ghazali monastery in Wadi Abu Dam. Mercurios' son, Zacharias, renounced the throne to enter a monastery but retained the power to appoint his successor. Political instability followed, with several kings and Muslim raids until Kyriakos seized the throne before 747. According to John the Deacon, Kyriakos led a Makurian invasion of Egypt to release the imprisoned Coptic patriarch, although this might be exaggerated. Nonetheless, Nubian influence in Upper Egypt remained significant. In 750, the last Umayyad caliph's son sought asylum in Nubia, which Kyriakos denied. Around 760, Makuria was reportedly visited by the Chinese traveler Du Huan. Makuria reached its peak between the 9th and 11th centuries. In the early 9th century, under King Ioannis, relations with Egypt soured, and the Bacht ceased. After Ioannis' death in 805, an Abbasid emissary demanded the arrears, threatening war. Confronted with a demand for over 5,000 slaves, the new king, Zacharias III Augustus, crowned his son Georgios to bolster prestige and sent him to Baghdad to negotiate. Georgios' journey attracted much attention, described in detail by the 12th century Syriac patriarch Michael. Georgios successfully persuaded the caliph to remit Nubia's debts and reduce Bacht payments to every 3 years. Upon his return around 836 or early 811, a new church, the Cruciform Church, and a new palace, the Throne Hall of Dongola, were constructed, showcasing strong Byzantine influences. And in 831, a campaign by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mutasim subdued the Beja tribes east of Nubia, extending nominal Muslim authority over much of the Sudanese eastern desert. 3 years later, discontented Arab Bedouins, displaced by al-Mutasim's orders, moved southward but were blocked by Makuria. While some Arab communities settled in lower Nubia, the majority found refuge among the Beja, driven also by the lure of gold mines. In the mid-9th century, an Arab adventurer named al-Umari hired a private army and took control of a mine near Abu Hamad in eastern Makuria. A confrontation ensued, and al-Umari occupied Makurian territories along the Nile. King Georgios I sent his son-in-law, Nudi, to deal with al-Umari, but Nudi failed and rebelled against the crown. Georgios then sent his eldest son, likely the future Georgios II, who was abandoned by his army and fled to Alodia. Finally, another son, Zacharias, joined forces with al-Umari to eliminate Nudi before turning on al-Umari, ultimately defeating him and driving him into the desert. Al-Umari attempted to establish himself in Lower Nubia but was soon ousted and eventually murdered during the reign of Tulunid Sultan Ahmad ibn Tulun. During the Ikhshidid dynasty, relations between Makuria and Egypt deteriorated. In 951, a Makurian army attacked Egypt's Kergea oasis, leading to Egyptian retaliation and subsequent battles, including the capture of Khazar Ibrahim. Despite these conflicts, Makuria launched another attack on Aswan in 962 to 964, pushing as far north as Akhmim and occupying parts of Upper Egypt for several years. When the Fatimids conquered Egypt in 969, they sent emissary Ibn Salim el-Aswani to Makuria. King Georgios III agreed to resume the Bacht Treaty but refused to convert to Islam, inviting the Fatimid governor to embrace Christianity instead. This maintained peaceful relations as the Fatimids needed Nubian support against their Sunni enemies. Makuria also exerted influence over Nubian-speaking populations in Kordofan and maintained a dynastic union with Alodia, evidenced by increased Makurian influence on Alodian art and architecture. Although contact with Christian Ethiopia was rare, notable interactions included King Georgios III mediating between the Patriarch Philotheus and an Ethiopian monarch. In the second half of the 11th century, Makuria experienced significant cultural and religious reforms, known as Nubization. Archbishop Georgios of Dongola popularized the Nubian language in written form to counter the growing influence of Arabic and introduced the veneration of dead rulers and bishops as indigenous saints. A unique church was built in Banganardi, becoming one of the kingdom's most important religious sites. Makuria also adopted new royal regalia and administrative terms from Alodia. In 1171, Saladin overthrew the Fatimid dynasty, leading to renewed hostilities with Nubia. The following year, a Makurian army pillaged Aswan. In response, Saladin's brother, Turan Shah, conquered Khazar Abrim in 1173, converting its church into a mosque. He sent an emissary to the Makurian king, Moses Georgios, who defiantly branded the emissary with a hot iron cross. Turan Shah withdrew but left Kurdish troops to raid Lower Nubia, causing significant destruction. In 1175, a Nubian army confronted and defeated these forces at Edindin, restoring peace for the next century. Between 1172 and 1268, little is known about Makuria's history, though modern discoveries suggest it entered a decline, possibly due to Bedouin invasions, changing trade routes, and a severe drought from 1150 to 1500. The rise of the Mamluks under Sultan Baybars in 1260 marked a turning point. In 1265, a Mamluk army raided Makuria. In 1272, King David retaliated by attacking Adab, a key port town, inflicting significant damage. In response, Baybars launched a major expedition in 1276, defeating the Nubians in several battles. King David fled to Al-Abwa but was handed over and executed by Baybars. During the 12th and 13th centuries, Western Europe became increasingly aware of Christian Nubia, with proposals to ally with Nubians for another crusade against the Mamluks. Nubian characters appeared in Crusader songs, and there were interactions between Crusaders and Nubians, particularly in Jerusalem and Egypt, where many Nubians lived. There is also evidence of Nubian communities in places like Famagusta, Cyprus. In the mid-14th century, pilgrim Nicolas de Poggibonsi noted Nubian sympathies for Latins, leading the Mamluk Sultan to restrict Latin travel to Nubia. Genoese traders were reportedly present in Dongola, and a text mixing Nubian and Italian was found in Khazar Abrim, along with a Catalan playing card and a Provençal inscription in Banganardi. And as internal conflicts brewed within the kingdom, external pressures mounted as well. King David's cousin Shakanda's bid for the throne, backed by the Mamluks of Cairo, plunged Makuria into further turmoil. Shakanda, a Christian, struck a deal with the Mamluks, pledging allegiance to Egypt and allowing a Mamluk garrison in Dongola. However, Shaymamun, another royal family member, rose against Shakanda, sparking a rebellion to restore Makurian independence. In 1286, Shaymamun succeeded, overthrowing the Mamluk garrison and claiming the throne. He renegotiated terms with Egypt, offering increased payments to annul Shakanda's agreements. With the Mamluk armies occupied elsewhere, Egypt consented to the new terms. Years of peace followed until King Karambas defaulted on payments, prompting another Mamluk occupation in 1312. Saif al-Din Abdullah Barshambu, a Muslim member of the Makurian dynasty, ascended the throne. His conversion efforts stirred dissent, leading to civil strife and Barshambu's eventual demise in 1317. Kans ad-Dawla, from the Banu Khan's tribe, succeeded Barshambu, ruling as a Mamluk puppet. King Karambas attempted to seize control in 1323 but failed, retreating to Aswan. The kingdom's fate oscillated between Muslim and Christian rulers, with the populace retaining its Christian faith amidst political upheaval. By the mid-14th century, Makuria faced a new threat, the plague. Devastation followed, accelerating the decline of Christian Nubian civilization. In 1365, a brief yet ruinous civil war erupted, claiming the life of the reigning king and plunging the kingdom into chaos. The rightful heir sought refuge in Ado, as Dongola fell to the Banu Jah tribe. Ado became the new capital, marking a shift in power dynamics. Despite the strife, Christian traditions persisted, with Makuria ruling over a reduced realm, known as Dotawo. Under King Joel's reign, a brief resurgence occurred, but the kingdom's collapse loomed. By 1518, traces of an independent Christian state waned, yielding to Ottoman and Funj influences in the region. Amidst these changes, Dongola saw the rise of independent kings by the early 15th century, facing Arab migrations and internal fragmentation. Petty kingdoms emerged, preserving Christian Nubian culture into the 17th century. As Arabic identity supplanted Nubian heritage, the Halin emerged, claiming descent from the prophet's uncle. Language shifts and cultural assimilation characterized this transition, eroding the remnants of Christian Nubia. Christian Nubia's once overlooked cultural richness emerged through archaeological discoveries, revealing a vibrant society shaped by matrilineal traditions and advanced domestic innovations. Despite its eventual decline, Makuria's legacy endures, a testament to a bygone era of cultural exchange and resilience amidst adversity.